What's going on, everybody? Tom here with Black Sheep Keto, and welcome to another recipe video just for you subscribers out there. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please consider doing so. Now, if you watched my previous vlog, then you already know what I'm making today. But if not, today we are making a delicious keto lemon bar with kind of like an almond shortbread kind of crust on it. These things are absolutely delicious, and as an added bonus, you can use them to use up the egg yolks that are left over from making my keto bread recipe, which I'll put up in the card right now. With that, let's go ahead and get right into the recipe. Alright everybody, welcome to this recipe for our delicious keto lemon bars. Now to start things off, we are going to have to bake the crust since that can bake while we're making the custard. So let's get right into this. Now right here I have 8 tablespoons or 113 grams of melted butter. We have 3/4 cup or 84 grams of almond flour. Right here we have a 1/2 cup or about 96 grams of Lakanto. This is 1/2 cup or roughly 56 grams of coconut flour. Then we've got 1 tablespoon of ground golden flaxseed, that's about 7 grams, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which is about 3 grams. I am trying to give it in both, standard and metric, that way everybody is happy. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just take a little bowl here and put all of our dry ingredients right into that mixing bowl. Easy enough, right? And then we'll just take our fork here and go ahead and make sure those all get mixed in well and try to break up any clumps that you see. So now that is all mixed up, we're going to take our melted butter, pour it right in, and then just kind of use our fork to basically crumble it into what looks like a crust. And there we go. You guys can see it's pretty well crumbly, but all the butter looks mixed in really well to the pie crust. So the next step is super simple. We're going to take a 8x8 baking dish lined with some parchment paper. This is parchment paper, not wax paper. And go ahead and just dump your pie mixture or your pie crust mixture right into there. And then from there, just use your fork, hands, whatever, to pack this into a nice flat layer. So now that our crust layer is nice and packed down pretty tightly, take your fork and just pop a series of holes in the crust. That way it doesn't lift up while we're baking it. Now that looks good enough to me. So this is going to go into a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for between 15 and 20 minutes. You'll want just the edges here to start to turn slightly brown, but for the most part, it's going to be just a little bit lighter color than this. So again, 15 to 20 minutes. Once the edges start turning golden brown, we're going to pull it out, and in the meantime, let's get started on our custard. Alright everybody, welcome back. Now while our crust is in the oven, it is time to get going on the custard. So I have all of the ingredients for basically the rest of the recipe laid out here, and we're going to use them in the next few steps, but I figured I'd just show you what they are now. So right here I have 1 more stick of butter, that's another 8 tablespoons or 113 grams. We've got 4 eggs, 4 egg yolks. These are left over from my keto bread recipe, so if you're looking for something to do with those yolks after making my keto bread, go ahead and use them here. Then we have a 1/2 cup or 96 grams of allulose, 1/2 cup or 96 grams of Lakanto's monk fruit sweetener. Feel free to use any granulated sweetener you want. 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 5 lemons. Now to answer a few of the questions that I know I will get in the comments section, if you've never used allulose before, guys, I'll put a link in the description and the card right now where I ate 50 grams of it and monitored my blood ketones and blood sugar. Allulose is totally keto. If you can't find allulose and you want to substitute it for more Lakanto, you can, but it will feel a little bit gritty because we're kind of coming up on that limit of the saturation point of erythritol, and Lakanto's monk fruit sweetener is an erythritol base. Those are all the questions that I can think of to answer off the top of my head, but I'm sure there will be more. In any case, let's get going on this. So we're just going to take our eggs, throw them in this bowl here. Basically everything that you see right here is going right into the bowl. Now we will get to the lemons and the butter in just a second, but go ahead and take your whisk and make sure this is well combined. So now that that is well mixed, it's time to get our lemons in there. Now I do have 5 lemons, and these are pretty much medium sized. If you've got small lemons, go ahead and use like 6 of them. If they're rather large, use 4. What we're gonna wanna do is we're going to want to get some of the lemon peel in there, and then we're gonna wanna juice them. Now, you could zest the lemons if you have a zester, but I'm just literally going to use a peeler because we're gonna be straining it out later, and I actually find it easier to strain out bigger pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how I do that real quick. So we have the peel off of that lemon, and it's just tossed right in that bowl. Go ahead and give it a quick little rolling to help break up some of the membranes in there and get us a little bit more juice. Slice it in half, and then go ahead and squeeze it in there. Really, I don't worry about the seeds. We're gonna strain this later. It's not a big deal, but I do like to squeeze them facing up. That way the seeds get caught in your hand. But again, if some get in there, it's really not the end of the world. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do that with the other 4 of these lemons. There's no sense boring you guys and making you watch me do it, so we'll catch up as soon as this is in there, and I'll show you what we're gonna do with the butter in just a minute. So I have my 5 lemons completely juiced and their peels in this bowl here. I'm gonna go ahead and mix the juice and the peels right into the egg mixture that we had earlier. And then we're gonna go ahead and heat up this saucepan. It's a medium to large saucepan over medium to medium high heat. Now, finally the butter. This was that 1 stick or 8 tablespoons of butter. I went ahead and sliced it into just little patties there. We're gonna go ahead and toss that right into our custard mixture. Now I've been doing this long enough to read your minds. Somebody's already thinking, that's a lot of sweetener, that's a lot of butter. Well, first of all, that's like the exact amount of butter that would go into a non-keto version of the dish. But also, keep in mind, this is gonna make 20, like 1.5 by 1.5 squares roughly. So it is quite a few servings. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just control yourself and don't eat like the entire pan. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this mixture poured directly into our saucepan. And then as this heats up, we're gonna continue to stir it until it thickens to basically this point where it could coat a spoon is the best way to describe it. But it's like a thick gravy. That's about when you wanna stop it. But try not to stop stirring for too awful long because you don't want the eggs to cook. You just want them to form that nice kind of jelly material. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll put a couple clips up as I go here, and I'll catch up with you as soon as we are ready to strain this mixture. Now it's been about 3-5 minutes or so of stirring this, and you guys can see it's nice and thickened. So we're gonna go ahead and strain this through just a strainer into another bowl. If you have help or possibly 3 arms, you might be able to strain this directly into the crust, but I currently don't, so we're gonna use a bowl here. Now, since our custard is a little bit thick, just go ahead and use a rubber scraper or wooden spoon, whatever you got, to work the remaining custard through the strainer here. And there we have our fully strained custard. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get the crust because the timer just went off, so we really timed this absolutely perfectly. So let me get rid of the hot plate, get the crust, and we'll get going on the next step. Now our crust is out of the oven here, and you can see what I meant by just the very edges are turning a golden brown. The rest is roughly the same color, and our custard is fully cooked. No, nobody's gonna judge if you just try a little bit of it. Trust me, it's fully cooked. You're good to eat it. But that custard is fantastic on its own. I think I might even make that just a snack on. Anyway, to finish making the lemon bars, we're gonna go ahead and just spread this evenly over the top of our cooked crust, like so. Now that looks just about perfect to me, and it is fairly level. Our oven is still at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're gonna return this to the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. You should see the very edges again starting to cook, but the center should still be kind of jiggly. That's exactly where you wanna pull them out. And then leave this on top of your stove or somewhere that's heat resistant for about 30 to 40 minutes until it has cooled down to roughly room temperature, and then place it in your fridge for basically 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours. I like to make this the day before I'm gonna eat it. That way I can just let them rest overnight. The longer that this is in the refrigerator, the more set up the custard will be. So to recap, bake this for 10 to 12 more minutes. Let it come to room temperature on a heat-safe object in your kitchen, and then put it in the refrigerator for 4 hours to overnight. So I'm gonna put the finished product on the screen now, and I'll catch up with you guys for the taste test. So now that you've seen the recipe and the finished product, it is time for the taste test. So I do have one of my little lemon squares right here, and as a note guys, I did just cut this into 20 squares, so it was 4 by 5. Do it however way you want, it's a square pan, right? You're gonna end up with these awesome little rectangles, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna consider this 20 or 10 servings. It just kind of depends on how much I feel like eating, but I'll leave the full written recipe and the macros down in the description box. In any case, let's go ahead and give this thing a taste. These things are just absolutely perfect. Now, originally I was worried that I had a little bit too much crust and not enough filling, but I love the ratio that we currently have. There's a nice crunch to it. You get a little bit of the almond flavor. But definitely that filling. It's very, very sour, and then the sweet kind of comes in a little bit later, which is absolutely perfect. These are definitely one of my favorite lemon bars, keto or not, that I've ever made. Now I did have these in the fridge for about 4 hours after we made them, so they still have a little bit of jiggle to them. You probably can't see it on camera, but just take my word for it. Now if you were to leave them in there uncovered overnight, they'll firm up just a little bit. So all my leftovers I just have on a plate tucked in my refrigerator, and I'm gonna let the filling firm up just a little bit more as we eat them over the next week or so. That's right, I do store these in my refrigerator for those of you guys who are gonna ask that question. But with that, guys, I am going to go ahead and close the video. If you like this video, leave it a like. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that for me, leave them down in the comment section. If you have not subscribed yet, do me a huge favor, guys. Hit that subscribe button, show some love, and I will see you in the next one.